Alright, so I'm sure everybody knows that Drake just dropped his new album For All the Dogs, and I think it's sick, man. There's a good range of vibes on there, but one beat that really speaks to the soul is 8 AM in Charlotte.
The money speaking for itself, I call it fortune tell. 5 top from a bitch that work at corporate sales.
Whenever we see Drake tutorials, we always see the smooth R&B ones or the hard trap ones, which are all sick, but for this one, I wanted to do it a bit different. So what I've got in my head is to come up with some sort of nice piano melody, and then I'll flip that into a boom-bap beat. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so we've got FL Studio open, I've got the BPM set to 80, and the piano that I'm going to start with is the Maverick. We're just going to start off in any scale for now, and whenever I'm thinking of chord progressions, I just start with a simple chord like a triad, just skipping every other note. If it's jazz, I might use the 7th, so I'll skip another note, and then I'll just play with inversions until I get a sound I like, and by that I mean just pitching some notes up and down an octave. So that's like too predictable, but we could try pitch this one up, and then to get more of a jazzy feel, I could use this note here. I like the way that sounds. Then we'll find a new bass note. Same process again. We'll start with a 7th. Maybe pitch this up. Try this one. Kind of like that. But I might save that for the end. So I'm just going to copy that, bring this back. So yeah, I like the second chord now, and like you saw, I wasn't really thinking too much. I was just starting with a simple chord and then experimenting with the notes until I get more of a jazzy sound. But you could try doing something like this, so just adding 2 notes together to create some tension, or even going out of the scale, and that can sometimes help create a jazzy vibe. So from here, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to bring these over, I'll take this chord again, and then just have a switch up at the end here. So this is pretty much the same chord, except we got rid of this note and we added this. And then I'm just using this note to help resolve it. But it sounded too robotic right now, so what I like to do is just hold Alt, click and drag, and bring some notes out. You can use Alt and S to strum it, but I feel like this sounds more natural, especially if we're creating a jazz vibe. Then I'll take this one and just change it a bit. So even though I brought this one out, I want it as natural as possible. So I'm just thinking if someone was playing this in real life, they're not going to play it twice exactly the same. Just bring these out too. Just cut them so they don't overlap. From here, I'm going to press Alt and R to randomize the velocity. Just have it played quite low. But then again, to make it more natural, I'm just going to adjust some of the notes manually. This one I'll bring down. Then I'm going to copy this whole thing, and then at the end for some variation, I'm just going to make a subtle change. Or I could try something else and just cut that chord completely. Then we'll use the second note in the scale, skip a note, skip a note, skip a note, and instead of going here, we'll go here. Then I'm going to take these bass notes, just copy these down an octave. Just turn them down. But I'm going to bring some of them back as well. And then just a subtle note here. Alright, so once I've got my chord progression, usually what I like to do is think of a counter melody by playing some keys that are in the scale. So I'm just going to try and record something in. Okay, so I kept most of the notes the same. Just leaving it a bit off grid too. Added this double note. Sounding hard. Alright, so that counter melody is not going to be everywhere, but I've got the chord that I like, I've got the counter melody that I like, so I'm going to route these to an insert. So I've got my chords and my counter. I just like to keep them on different tracks in case I want to process them different or arrange it differently. But then I'm going to group them together. Then we'll add RC20. I just wanted the vinyl presets. I really like vinyl 3, but vinyl 1 sounds good in this one. So yeah, we're just going to bring the noise down. Everything else is fine as it is. We could add the space in this one. Alright, next up I found these gospel vocals in Arcade. They sounded sick, but I want to do some processing to make it sound more like a choir.
You light my world with We light it up when the
Just need to find the right parts though.
You light my world. We light it up when the sun goes down. Ooh,
Then I'm thinking this one.
ooh, oh,
Let's try another one too.
oh, oh. We do that. Well, there you go again.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so to get that choir effect, I'm going to use Antara's choir. Could select 32 voices.
You light my world.
See already.
You light my
That's before
world.
and then after.
You light my world.
And then we'll add some reverb to that. Or maybe we'll use the same one as the piano.
You light my world.
Crazy. Then I'm going to add a little altar boy. I've brought the pitch up a full octave. And I thought it just sounded a bit too squeaky, so I brought the formant down. Now it sounds like this. And then I'm just going to add an EQ to filter out some of the highs and lows. So this is before.
Light it up.
Massive difference. Last thing I'm going to do is just add decimalt to those vocals. And this is just to really cut off some of those highs. Alright, the piano and the vocals are sounding sick. Next up, I want a bass, and I'm going to use a live bass guitar. And if you've seen any of my Boom-Bap tutorials, you already know what I'm going to use. And of course, it's the Scarby Rickenbacker bass. This is just like the best live bass guitar plugin. And I want to play something similar to the actual track. So mainly I'm going to follow the root notes of the chords. So we can copy this, but then change this part. So we'll repeat that. Alright, so the guitar's sounding real nice. I'm just going to randomize the velocity, but only a little bit. I want the bass notes to stand out, but still be natural. But I'm going to turn it down too. And in the piano, I'm just going to duck some of the lows. I'm not going to cut them out completely because that's going to kill the vibe too much. But just ducking them about there. Alright, in one section, I want to swap the vocals. I've done the same processing, so I've just sent this one to the same mixer bus. But I found this one on Splice. It was in C minor, so I pitched it up 2, and then I just stretched it in time. So this is what it sounded like before. Already nicely processed, but I just wanted to blend it in more. So this will play when the other vocal stops. So yeah, let's arrange this melody quick. In the Drake track, there's not really much more than that, apart from the drums, obviously, so we'll add those in a second. So yeah, I just want a couple different parts. Obviously, these parts with everything, part with just the chords, part with the chords and counter melody, and then I think another part with these vocals. Alright, from here, I'm just going to render everything, and then we'll try and change the key. I was going to render it as 1, but we might as well keep the stems separate for now. Let's try and pitch everything up 2. Sounded sick there. Alright, let's get a pattern in for drums. And in 8 AM in Charlotte, there's literally just a kick and the snare. So we're going to start off with that, and then if I feel like adding something else, we will. Yeah, the simple bounce is sick. Haven't quantized it either. I just moved a few of them. Right, with the kick and the snare, I've just routed them together so we've got a drum bus. And then we'll get that same RC20 preset, but we're going to bring the low end back so it doesn't cut out the kick. The high end too. I've also brought the decay of the reverb back. And then we don't need the noise here. Quick change to the drum. Just added the double kick at the beginning. Alright, then I'm just going to take the tired snare from a timeless Boom-Bap kit. We could actually layer it in here, so I'm just going to layer it under the other snare, but then just turn the volume down. Sounds more full. I might just keep the drums like that, you know. I really like the simplicity of it, especially if I was gonna get vocals on there. But the last thing I want to do is just flip this melody into one of a chop, so we can play the normal version and then into the chop, kind of like the Drake track. So what I'm gonna do is render the whole melody, then I'm gonna open FPC, we'll go to an empty preset. Then I like to make sure that everything is set to cut by 1, so that none of your chops are gonna overlap. And then if your pads aren't really synced up, quick trick is to click here and then select map notes from entire bank, and then just press your drum pads going from the bottom left to the top right, and you'll see they'll start to map up. Otherwise you're just going to have random pads linked. But yeah, with this rendered version, I'm going to go into Edison, and then I'm just going to take some of the chops. So we'll take this, just kind of taking each chord, take that too, take this, that, and this one. Then we'll just repeat this process. So I've just rearranged the chops a little bit, especially in the second half. Alright, so I'm just going to add the chops there, and then this part can come in. So a break of the bass, and then the bass can come back in here. So I'm not thinking too much about the arrangement, but now we need some type of intro. So we'll bring the chords in. So we'll bring this part in here, cut everything there, bring this back, and then really simple, I'm just going to copy this over. All right, and in some parts in the track, you can hear a couple faint hats, so we're going to add some in. We'll go to my timeless Boom-Bap kit. We'll take hat 8, start with each 2-step. And then to make it more natural, we're just going to hold Alt, click, and drag some of the notes just to bring it a bit off grid, and I will also play with the velocity. So we could copy this over, send that to the same drum bus. And then I'm just going to pitch it down 1. We're also going to bring the swing dial up to about 30%. Alright, next up, I'm going to add a ride. And this is only going to come in some parts. We'll do it in 3rd steps. And there's 2 more here. Alright, so we'll do it in 1/4 steps. I think that's better. I might even keep those just instead of the hats and have no hats throughout the whole thing. So yeah, we'll split the drums, bring everything in. So yeah, I'm just going to copy them all out. We'll leave the rides out here, bring them in here. Then yeah, just the piano there. Then in this section, just that. Bring the rides back in. Bring them back in here. And then in this section, just cut everything apart from the ride. Alright, now we can copy everything. So yeah, this arrangement's a bit different to how I'd usually do my boom-bap beats. I'd usually make the hook like half this length, but I wasn't really thinking about it in this one. So let's just have a listen from the beginning. So in the intro, we're just starting with the chords. Then the counter melody. This beat's so smooth. I could hear vocals on this all day, especially Drake. We got the ride. So yeah, a bit of a weird arrangement. Usually I'd have these sections, but I'm still feeling it. Alright, Alright, so now we've got a breakdown, just the piano, and then we come into the chops. So even though the beat's really simple, we spice it up with the chops and the arrangement. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you're thinking this one's too simple. Let me know if you think it needed hats or it's perfect the way it is. So yeah, if you're feeling this one and you want to see more Boom-Bap, then click up here. And if you're liking the tutorials I put out for you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.